Hannah, Pongchen, Rafizi, Ram has left, is it? Sangeet, Mrs. Tapal Singh, friends, the people of Subang Jaya, a very good evening, and I'm a little breathless even though I've been sitting there for the last hour and a half. I received the biggest ang pao one can receive in a new year. I was trying to avoid the ang pao like mad. You know, after I received the letter of demand, I put out a Facebook post. Very brave. Saya pantang di Saman. Oh, not scared lah. Then after that, I kept totally quiet. Hopefully he'll forget about it and not send in the writ of summons. I'm the complete opposite of Rafizi. After he got the letter of demand, come get me. After first time come get me, nothing came. Last two weeks ago, said come get me again. Don't just issue letter of demand. Demanding that the Prime Minister send him a writ of summons. I said he's very brave. I'm not so brave. Hopefully Najib send it to him and not to me. I don't know why he's so soy. He still send it to me and never send to Rafizi. The one who wants it never get it. The one who is trying to avoid it, kena. First MP in the history of Malaysia to kena this letter or the writ of summons for defamation from a Prime Minister. Now, you look at just now. I'm getting my, what do you call it, moral bearings a bit confused. You know, when you're a kid, your father, mother tell you, don't do bad things or the police will catch you. Nowadays, I'm very confused. How come all the people in front every day spend time in the lockup with the police one? Or every time charged by people in the government? Is there something wrong with what we are doing? Do we need to reflect back? Go back to primary school education. Don't get caught by the police. Or is there something wrong with the system that we must persist with what we do to make sure that those corrupt are finally overthrown from power so that the real good police get to be in charge so that finally we can go back to the normal where we can tell our kids, don't get caught by the police because that means you have done a very bad thing. And this is what we want the police to look at. Tonight I just talk one topic enough. Even the time allotted to me, I told Hannah, if you want me to talk about 1MDB, I need 2 hours. 2 hours means what time? 12:30? No. That won't happen. I will summarize and give you some of the key points in this scandal. You will see for yourself and you will understand how incredulous the scam is that has been perpetrated against the Malaysian taxpayers. I'll just go quickly to the original scene. This is where it all started in 2009. The 1MDB Petro Saudi joint venture. You have seen the Sarawak expose. She writes very long articles, sometimes a bit hard to understand. I simplify it for you. Petro Saudi. 1MDB haven't come into the picture yet. In fact, if you look at email records produced in Sarawak report, 1MDB don't even know that they are going into a joint venture with Petro Saudi. The CEO himself from 1MDB didn't even know about Petro Saudi. And yet Petro Saudi already set up a shell company, 100% owned subsidiary called 1MDB Petro Saudi Limited. Okay? And 1 week later, this was after the 18th, then there was discussions between Petro Saudi and 1MDB. 1 week later, Petro Saudi signed an agreement with the 100% owned subsidiary, 1MDB Petro Saudi, such that the company, 1MDB Petro Saudi, owes Petro Saudi, the parent, $700 million. Straight away owe. Empty shell, nothing yet. Straight away owe the parent $700 million. US dollars. And then on 25th as well, PetroSaudi injected 1.5 billion worth of assets, so-called assets, into the company 1MDB PetroSaudi. All this while, 1MDB haven't come in yet. Now on 29th of September, 1MDB buys 40% stake in this 1MDB PetroSaudi to do the joint venture, and they injected $1 billion US dollars of cash. Okay, so PetroSaudi for 1.5 billion assets got 60%. 1MDB for 1 billion cash got 40%. Sounds okay, 60%, 40%, except the company inside got debt of 700 million, straight away got to pay out to PetroSaudi. And this was in the joint venture agreement. Can you imagine how bodoh the people in 1MDB to sign this agreement in about 10 days of discussions? And straight away after putting in $1 billion US dollars, the next day $700 million US dollars is taken out from the joint venture and paid to PetroSaudi and its nominees. Except it wasn't paid to PetroSaudi. It was paid. PetroSaudi wrote a letter to 1MDB for it to be put to an account with the account number 11116073. Don't buy lottery over this, huh? Located in Switzerland, RBS Coutts account. The question is, whose account is this? Nobody knows. Whose account is this? And thanks to Sarawak Report, who went through digging all the materials, they found this account appearing in another email between Patrick Mahoney, who is the CEO of PetroSaudi, and the president of PetroSaudi, Tariq Obaid, where in this document, the same account number popped up and it said, for favor of Good Star Limited. So the account numbers company behind the scenes is called Good Star Limited. Maybe Good Star Limited was a subsidiary of PetroSaudi. Never mind. It's still PetroSaudi money. 700 million returned to PetroSaudi. Then we found another document where the investment manager agreement between Good Star Limited and Patrick Mahoney. In this agreement, it was stated that Good Star Limited is located in, this time I say it right, Seychelles and not Seychelles. And the chief investment officer is Sid Lee Lim. Now, who is Sid Lee Lim? He has a Singaporean phone number. He is a Singaporean. And if you find his LinkedIn account, and this is still there, his LinkedIn account tells you that he is the vice president of Jinwell Capital. Jinwell Capital. And who owns Jinwell Capital? Jolo. Low Tik Jo Jolo. And the day after the agreement was signed, his Facebook account wrote, I feel the earth move under my feet. No, it wasn't Rosmah falling down, it was the signing of the 1 billion joint venture agreement between 1MDB and PetroSaudi. So easy to make money when I go to Oxford for no reason. What a failure, you know? Now, for this deal, for this transaction, for making PetroSaudi a front for Jolo, what did this Tariq Obaid get? He's the president of PetroSaudi. They signed a letter immediately on the same day of the joint venture. It's called a broker agreement. The broker agreement paid Tariq Obaid 85 million US dollars in fees. The first time Jolo met Tariq Obaid was in early September. By the end of September, Tariq Obaid pocketed 85 million US dollars, more than 300 million ringgit. Can you believe it? I mean, you have to be impressed with these people. You cannot be not impressed. You must also be very impressed with all people who just signed that agreement. You know? And then what do we have today? South China Morning Post interview with Joe Low. What did he say? I have nothing to hide. Malaysia's Joe Low breaks silence to deny money laundering allegations. And what did he say in the article? These people are very clever. They know how to use the words to say the right things. He said, I feel I'm a victim of a crossfire of Malaysian politics, which is getting more polarized. No, I'm crying for the nation. I'm a target. He told the Post from his office in Hong Kong. Business decisions by 1MDB are ultimately decided and approved in accordance to their corporate governance framework, which is the management board and the shareholder. So why politicize and try to blame it on me when I have no decision-making powers? He's right. He's absolutely right. Those stupid buggers, stupid enough to sign that agreement with Petro Saudi, don't blame me for taking all the money. Right? That's what he's saying now. I didn't sign the agreement. You agreed to give me the money. Not my problem. And he said, I'm not hired by 1MDB. I don't get paid any fees. You know, like very poor thing like that. By 1MDB. If someone in 1MDB asks for my views informally, I will always give my views like any other Malaysians. Except that when Tony Pua gives his view, is ignored. When Joe Low gives his views, they give him money. They don't pay him directly, which is correct again. He is very clever, correct. They never pay him on record. How he makes his money, what I told you just now, 700 million, is only less than half the story. The other half of the story, I'll tell you another time. No, every time 1MDB raises money, want to borrow money, there's a fee involved, pay to bankers. Joe Low gets a cut of that as well. Okay, the mechanism I'll tell another day, otherwise it will take, say, another 2 hours. I will go back to Petro Saudi. Petro Saudi formed a joint venture with 1MDB. Okay, there is a 700 million debt in the company. Okay, 700 million was paid off. But at least Petro Saudi put in 1.5 billion of assets against the 1 billion put in by 1MDB. So, lose, but still got something there maybe. In fact, Petro Saudi said this 1.5 billion is a discount. The real asset value that I put in is 2.7 billion ringgit. So I give it to you in the discount. I take 1.5 collection only. Oh, so good at this Petro Saudi. Now what exactly is this asset? This asset is an oil field in Caspian Sea. Caspian Sea is located in the North Middle East, between Russia and Middle East, surrounded by all the ex-Soviet Union countries. And in this Caspian Sea, there is an oil field called Cedar Fields in Block 3. Okay, this is where Cedar Field is, the color Block 3 in yellow, Cedar Fields. Okay, it's there. Now, so this block is supposed to have a lot of oil. If you read the email communications between Petro Saudi and Joe Low and 1MDB, they tell you next to this block got BP Petroleum, British Petroleum. They got a lot of oil, so here sure got a lot of oil. Never mind. What is important is Petro Saudi doesn't own this piece of property. Let me give you the history of this property. Now let me give you the background also. This property is awarded to this company called Berit Hills by Turkmenistan. But unfortunately, Berit Hills cannot do anything on this oil field because it's a disputed territory with Azerbaijan. So in this case, nothing can be done until the border dispute is resolved. But Petro Saudi came in July 2008. They signed an agreement called a farm-in agreement with Buried Hill to fund the exploration project for the rights to earn 50% of the returns. This is a very common agreement. Whether here in Petronas or anywhere else, it's a very common agreement. I got the rights, I get a partner to fund it, and we share the returns from the oil field. But this agreement doesn't mean that PetroSaudi owns the oil field or have direct rights of the oil field or sign a contract directly with Turkmenistan. But they got this. They signed a farm-in agreement with Buried Hill where they promised to fund the venture in return for 50% of the returns. Now, 25th of September, as I mentioned just now, they signed, PSI injected this asset, PetroSaudi injected this asset into the joint venture company. And the 28th of September, the joint venture company agreement was signed between 1MDB and PetroSaudi. Guess what happens next? 24th of November, PetroSaudi terminated the agreement. Terminated the agreement with Buried Hill. Which means what? No more oil reserve? No more oil field? So the entire 1.5 billion assets that's supposed to be in the subsidiary disappeared just like that. Tada! You know, 1MDB put in $1 billion US dollars for 40%. PetroSaudi put in nothing for 60%. And guess what? 1MDB knew about it. Because by the time they terminated the agreement, this company was already a subsidiary of the joint venture company where 1MDB has a management role. And yet they continued with the whole scam. And this can only lead me with the one conclusion. 1MDB was completely complicit with the entire scam to take out money from the government of Malaysia. No? Jolo pleaded, I'm not the mastermind. Maybe he is not the mastermind. Maybe there's someone even more sinister and bigger behind him. But that's what we have to find out. Why exactly did 1MDB enter this incredulous deal with PetroSaudi and Jolo behind the scenes? Now the interesting thing is, you know, with this type of scam, auditors generally not so stupid. At that point in time, 1MDB's auditors were Ernst & Young. Okay? Ernst & Young went in and saw all these things. Ini tak boleh lah. Sorry, I have to resign immediately before even completing the first set of accounts and say I'm not touching your company. This one clever auditor. I wish they have reported to the police, but never mind, they didn't touch the company. KPMG came in. And under KPMG, as reported in the first financial accounts of 1MDB, we found out that the JV was terminated less than 6 months after it was signed. Wow, so fast put in 1 billion straight away after 6 months, terminate the agreement. On the very last day of the financial year, 31st of March 2010, they terminated the agreement. I can only imagine why they terminated the agreement. This agreement cannot see the light of day. If it is published in the auditor accounts, finish, 1MDB is gone. So the details of the agreement, the transactions that have taken place during the past 6 months cannot be seen and reflected in the auditor accounts. So the best way to do it is terminate it. Now the excuse given by the chairman, the excuse given by chairman of 1MDB was the Tan Sri Lok Kamaruddin. He said, oh, we saw the business not so good. After we enter, we realized this thing will not work. So we decided to exit the joint venture. We decided to sell off the joint venture, which is a perfectly valid reason to sell. You know, we do business, sometimes we make money, sometimes we lose money. When we lose money, we want to cut losses, we sell. Even though there's losses, we sell. So maybe 1MDB thought that, kena screwed already, no choice, got to sell, take back whatever money we have. But that didn't happen. What happened instead was they converted the shares that they have in the joint venture into a loan for that former joint venture company. If you've got no more confidence in that company anymore, why do you still lend money to that company? And the only reason why I can explain why they converted it from shares to loan was that if it is a loan, I don't have to disclose in my audited accounts what PetroSaudi does with the money. If it was my share in that company, I must explain where this money go, why this money go to this person, why that money disappeared, why that asset that's supposed in that company no longer there. If it is a loan, their business. I have signed a loan agreement with them. In fact, they made it a bit fatter. They converted the 1 billion shares to a 1.2 billion loan. It's called Murabaha notes. It's an Islamic loan to 1MDB PetroSaudi. And PetroSaudi International, with no assets, provided the corporate guarantee for a 1.2 billion US dollar loan. 4 billion ringgit. Fantastic. International loan shark. This is what 1MDB has become. Okay? I don't even know if 1MDB has a money lending license. Now, this is what is reflected in the audited report. This is the audited report signed by KPMG. If you note there, third paragraph, subsequently on 31st of March 2010, the company entered into a share sale letter agreement to dispose of the investment in the joint venture company for a consideration of 4.14 billion ringgit or 1.2 billion US dollars. The consideration of 1.2 billion US dollars is payable to the company through the creation of indebtedness, okay, in favor of the company via an issue of notes receivable. This notes receivable is the Murabaha loan. So there's no real money transaction. It was an immediate paper conversion into a loan on the 31st of March 2010. Very important date. Remember that date, 31st of March 2010, the last day of the financial year. Then, Sarawak report exposed another email between Patrick Mahoney and this team of people called Project Uganda. Project Uganda is a group of people, Jolo and 1MDB guys, involved in the acquisition of UBG in Malaysia. In the email, they were discussing the terms of the Murabaha loan agreement and the transaction converting from shares to loan. And what is weird about this email? The email discussing that transaction was in 4th of May 2010. Not before 31st of March 2010. It was in 4th of May 2010. Even worse, the actual agreement, as we can see from this document, was signed on the 14th of June 2010. The loan agreement, the Murabaha loan agreement was signed on 14th of June 2010. Auditors put it in their books, what date? 31st of March 2010. Now I'd like to state here, okay, I may be subject to another suit, but I think it won't come because I'm not telling a lie. The auditors helped 1MDB cover up the joint venture agreement with a backdating of the Murabaha loan agreement from June to the last day of the previous financial year, so that in that financial report, nothing about the incredulous, scandalous, multi-billion ringgit losses will be recorded in the 2010 accounts. That was what happened. And I will submit a complaint, an official complaint, to the Malaysian Institute of Accountants against KPMG for helping 1MDB defraud the people of Malaysia. Turn it into a loan? Finish story? No. After become a loan, the audited accounts got through, they got more greedy. Quite easy, No one said anything, no investigation, nothing happened. Let's use the same loan arrangement. In 31st of March, we got 1.2 billion US dollars of loan. 8th of September, get another 500 million US dollars of loan. 2001, another transaction, 200 million. Sometime later in 2001, another transaction, 130 million US dollars. Total amount lent to Petro Saudi, 2 billion US dollars, or more than 6 billion ringgit. Under the same terms. What did they do with this money? Okay, this money, one of it, the first one, 500 million US dollars. This is my chart, which went quite viral. I think reached about 700,000 Facebook users on the internet yesterday. The suspected money trail. This is for the 500 million US dollars subsequent loan. We all know that 1MDB formed the joint venture, 40% to form 1MDB Petro Saudi. And then from there, 700 million was transferred to this company, Goodstar Limited, which we know is associated with Jolo and Associates. And then we knew that 1MDB Petro Saudi became a 100% subsidiary on the 14th of June after the signing of the Murabaha agreement. Okay? And after that, an additional 500 million in loans was extended to Petro Saudi. Except Petro Saudi only received 340 million. Another 160 million US dollars was transferred to Goodstar Limited. Another round in the pocket. But even the 340 million to Petro Saudi, 260 million went to a so-called subsidiary called Petro Saudi Seychelles. Now don't be confused between Petro Saudi Caymans and Petro Saudi Seychelles. They use all these same names to confuse everyone. It's like the same company. But based on an email conversation between Jolo and Patrick Mahoney, as exposed in the Sarawak report, Seychelles, this Petro Saudi Seychelles is directly under the control of Jolo. Jolo used Petro Saudi Seychelles as a front, and via its wholly owned subsidiary Javaes Sdn Bhd in Malaysia to launch an acquisition exercise of Utama Banking Group in Malaysia, a 1.4 billion acquisition exercise, okay, in order to buy out Taib Mahmud and family, which has a 37.2% stake in that company, payoff of 465 million ringgit. This was in 29th of September 2010. So the 500 million came out on 8th of September. By the 29th of September, money has gone into Taib Mahmud's family's account. But the biggest payout of 52% of the company in an earlier corporate structuring exercise, 657 million went to this company called Abu Dhabi Kuwait Malaysia Investment Corporation. Jolo very clever. They always use all these big names, Abu Dhabi, Kuwait, Malaysia, to make it look official. They are all private companies unrelated to the government, but they make it look official. In Johor, he owns a company called Iskandar Holdings. That sounds like the company that runs Iskandar in Johor, but no, it's actually Jolo's company. You know, Petro Saudi, you cannot go wrong, definitely owned by the Saudi government. No, it's a private company. He used all these big names to look bigger than he really is. And in this Abu Dhabi Kuwait Malaysia Investment Corporated, an unquantified stake belongs to Jolo. Money goes back to him. And this is what I call the perfect money laundering case study. And that's why 2 days ago I have asked the Bank Negara, which is the competent authority granted by the Anti-Money Laundering and Anti-Terrorism Financing Act, to investigate Jolo for money laundering in Malaysia by taking illicitly procured funds to legalize them via a legal-looking transaction in Malaysia to bring and cleanse the money as clean money. No, in Chinese it's called 洗黑钱. You wash dirty money and you clean it so that you can look like you really own the money. Okay? And this is where I will stop for this evening. There's a lot more to go. There's the second half of the transactions. The money in Cayman Islands. The real estate in Bandar Tun Razak and Bandar Malaysia. The Tun Razak Exchange and Bandar Malaysia. The overpriced power acquisition. All this will come, and I've actually prepared the platform for you to find out more. On Sunday, 15th of March, 3 p.m. at the Penang Jaya Crystal Crown Hotel, we will be having the forum there, 1MDB, the ultimate lowdown, where you can find out all you want about the entire shenanigans over the last 5 years in 1MDB, which has resulted in the mother of all scandals in Malaysia, 42 billion ringgit indebted 1MDB. And I tell you, we will bring Najib down by hook or by crook with this scandal, because he must pay, because 1MDB is his baby. Thank you very much.